as we've been covering on the program, Project 2025 is a MAGA world manifesto and a vision of implementing a startlingly authoritarian form of the U.S. government. It's 900 pages long. You could Google it right now and read it. It is chock full of wildly unpopular policy proposals. You got everything from using a 19th century obscenity law to shut down all medication abortion and also maybe the mailing of all birth control, to outright outlawing pornography and throwing people in prison over it, to weaponizing the Department of Justice to be used explicitly as a kind of tool of vengeance for Donald Trump. Now, Republicans realize that Project 2025 and all these ideas are wildly unpopular, or at least they're beginning to, which is why today Donald Trump is desperate to try to separate himself from it all. Trump does not want people to know about the entire vanguard of extremist weirdos around him and what their little plans are for when he governs. With the Project 2025 plans lying in plain sight, they are panicking in a comically preposterous and fraudulent way. Donald Trump posting today, I like this, he knows nothing about Project 2025 and has no idea who is behind it. Well, you could go to the website. It's got them all listed there. Here's the thing. The group behind it all is the Heritage Foundation. You see that their logo and the scrim behind him? We all know Trump spoke to them while he was president. And Paul Dans, a former senior aide in the Trump administration, is the director of Project 2025. Ken Cuccinelli, the Cooch, Trump's former acting deputy Homeland Security secretary, who aggressively pushed anti-immigrant policies, wrote a chapter in the manifesto. John McEntee, Trump's one-time White House personnel director, a guy very close to him, around him all the time, is a senior advisor. He's been doing some vetting of a personnel database to see who they're going to staff the government with. So if Trump has no idea who is behind it, he is far too senile to be allowed to continue his campaign. Either that or he's lying. Amanda Marcotte is a senior politics writer at Salon, where she writes today, Project 2025 may be backfiring on Trump. Stuart Stevens worked as a political strategist on dozens of Republican campaigns. He's now a senior advisor of the Lincoln Project, and they join me now. Amanda, why do you think it may be backfiring?
Well, I think that, first of all, they gave it like a weird, sinister name, right? Project
Yes.
2025. And so I think the original goal was to sort of put it out there and hope that the MAGA shock troops could hear it, and then like progressives might hear it and get all freaked out, and then they could laugh at how they're triggering the liberals. But I don't think they thought that like ordinary people that might be swing voters in this election would hear of it. But I don't think that that's true anymore. We're seeing some evidence that it's kind of breaking the blood-brain barrier and like getting on the radar of people that don't pay super close attention to politics.
I had a conversation with a guy the other day on the street, actually, who said, I've been checked out of politics for 4 or 5 years. What's been going on? Which is a great question. I was like, where do I start? And also said his only question, Stuart, his only question was, what's this Project 2025 I keep hearing about? Which suggests to me that it has, to Amanda's point, it has taken on a kind of virality out past the sort of circle of people that are avid news consumers.
Yeah, look, this is the day after July 4th. If people don't know about Project 25 now, they're going to know come November, come people start voting. You know, part of what's happening here is there's a complete void of policy on the Republican side.
Yes. Yeah.
What is it? So of course this is filling that. You know, here's a serious question. Is there any Republican running for re-election who is running an ad or talking about a bill that they actually voted for? I'm not aware of any. They're out there talking about stuff like J.D. Vance, about, you know, the benefits of the Infrastructure Act that he voted against. What did the Republicans accomplish that they're now saying, trust us, put us back, you know, put us in power, give us more power, and we'll deliver this? I don't know what this bargain is that they get. So you have Project 2025, which is basically an attack on the future. This is some sort of effort to turn the clock back, which is what the Trump candidacy is about. I mean, let's don't forget, Donald Trump is against mandatory school vaccines, not for COVID, but for everything. Yep. So, you know, I mean, there may be a bunch of people out there that miss polio and whooping cough and measles, but I don't think there's many of them.
This point about the sort of absence of a platform or policy agenda is so key. And I think, Amanda, there's a few things in operation here. One is this sort of authoritarian cult around Trump, whatever he wants. Famously in 2020, they just said, we're not doing a platform. But there's also some there's also some sort of feral intelligence to this, I think, from Trump's perspective, which is if you don't write anything down, then you don't have any positions, right? So, like, I keep bringing this up, but like, what is Donald Trump's position on Gaza? You know, it's very hard to say. He doesn't really write it down. They don't have policy papers. He did say in the debate he wants to let Israel finish the job. Those are his words. I don't know what that means. You can intuit. But this is an example, Amanda, to me, to Stuart's point, where it is all written down. And that's why it was such a tell to me for Trump to try to run away from it.
Yeah, I think one of the goals of having an outside firm do this might have been to make sure that there was distance between this and Trump. But like you said, there's so many staffing people in common with his first administration, and there's just so many connections. It's hard to run away from. But I also think, to the point about like kind of what like ordinary people that only half pay attention to politics, like they aren't going to be tuned into those kind of fine distinctions for exactly that reason.
Right.
That they're not paying enough attention. They just hear the name.
From a purely political practitioner standpoint, Stuart, I thought Trump coming out to try to distance himself, and then a bunch of reporters writing it up as, Trump torches heritage, and Trump's campaign manager saying, if you poke the bear, you get bit. By the way, in the post, he says, I wish them all the luck, or whatever he said, like, go get them, boys. This, to me, was such a tell from a political standpoint that they are worried about this thing. They understand it's got traction.
Yeah, this is the policy equivalent of I didn't inhale. It's seen as sort of disingenuous and silly. The better politics would be for them to actually have something that they're running on themselves. But you know, the idea.
That's right. That's right. They could say, look, we're not doing Project 2025. Here's everything on the website of what we're going to do. But of course, there is no such thing.
Look, you know, most of the time when you walk into a presidential campaign, there's a whole group of people over there. You go like, who are they? No, they're Supreme Court clerks. They're Rhodes Scholars. They're producing more paper than the Renaissance in these policy plans. You know, that they don't have those people in the Trump campaign. You know,
Such a good point.
They ain't there, and you know, and they ain't there for a reason because Trump will never read this stuff and he doesn't care about policy. So you know, this is why this debate was such a lost opportunity for Donald Trump. He could have come out there and said, "Look, I've got these plans." Roll out some sort of economic plan. He could have said, look, I've never been elected to office before. I learned a lot when I was president. I know it was a turbulent president. I'm going to be a better president next time. He didn't do any of that. That person would have walked off stage a stronger candidate. So, you know, I think for understandable reasons, there's been this focus on Biden. But let me tell you, how many people do you think started that evening as a Biden voter and ended up a Trump voter? I don't think very many.
No, and the polling we have, in fact, bears that out. What it has shown is, to the extent that the numbers have shifted, it's been people moving from Biden to undecided as opposed to Biden to Trump. That lead is essentially, in all the polling we've seen subsequent to the debate, has been that kind of movement. We'll see how much more traction this gives. So I also think it's a bit of a gift to the Biden campaign and to Democrats that they're denying it, because now you get to go back and be like, really? You sure about that? You sure about that's why? Amanda Marcotte, Stuart Stevens, thank you very much.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn, MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.